Ladies and gentlemen, we are rolling and we have Hazel Savage joining us today. How are you, Hazel? You're in Singapore, right? Can you hear me, Hazel?
Sorry, I've lost the sound.
You lost the sound?
Yeah, I can't hear you. I can see you talking, but I can't hear you at all.
Okay, this
Why
is
try exiting the room and coming
try
back?
exiting and come back again. Yeah.
Okay, sorry about this.
No worries. Meanwhile, I'll just keep talking. Anyway, this is an episode about the music industry, about music creators, artificial intelligence, machine learning, tagging. I think there's a lot of developments in this area which can maybe get musicians to get their music get discovered more easily through playlisting, to using AI and machine learning. So this is an extension of it's a concurrent team that we are running here at CMO Asia Podcast, where we are basically, putting a spotlight on music tech entrepreneurs, someone like Hazel, right, who's coming on today. Last week, I think before we went for a short break to do our Chinese webinar, we interviewed someone also from the Singapore startup industry, where she's very active in AR and VR, and we cover topics like virtual dating and all that. So I think Hazel is back. Let me just double check whether she is connected to her mic and webcam. So, this is done absolutely live, and sometimes there will be some hiccups along the way, so bear with us. But I'm sure she'll be back very soon. But just, a little bit of updates on what you can expect this week. We are going to have 4 podcast episodes. After this, tonight, we have a podcast that I'm producing for Danny Boy. He's the godfather of Singapore fashion, and for his podcast, Creatively Unscripted with Danny Boy podcast, we have Singapore legends like Hossan Leong, Mr. Miyagi, and Dwayne Lim, I think Dwayne Lau, who's coming on to his podcast tonight, which I will be producing. And for CMO Asia Podcast, we have Leah Frazier, a 2-time Emmy Award winner, who's also coming on to the show later on this week. And tomorrow, you can also expect an episode of No Half Truths, Liverpool Supporters Podcast, where I'll be interviewing a Liverpool fan from Nigeria. So that's what you can expect. Hazel, welcome back.
Hi, thank you. I've switched device. I'm now on a mobile, as you can see. Sorry, I was having all kinds of audio issues.
That's common. So we managed to resolve that. And out of the way, we can maybe reintroduce you again and welcome you back on to the show. And tell us how you're feeling today. Right here in Singapore, we are in the phase 2 of this circuit breaker, right? So things are coming back to normal slowly but surely. How's things going on for you on your side?
Yeah, things are going well. So based here in Singapore, living in Chinatown. Phase 2, it's great. It means that I can see up to 5 people at a time. But yeah, I can't complain. And business is good. My company sells a product that really helps people working remotely, helps people who are isolated. So we're actually busier than ever. So yeah, no complaints from me.
So we share something in common. We are busier than ever before, and working from home can actually be a great thing. And I'm actually very excited to talk to you. Yeah, to talk about how you're actually pandemic pivoting. Is that something that is even necessary for the cool things that you're doing with AI, machine learning, tagging music discovery, playlisting, and so many great things that you're doing for artists and musicians and marketers as well, right? So tell us a little bit more about what you do and maybe educate us.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, for anyone that doesn't know, I'm Hazel Savage. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Musiio, and we do artificial intelligence for the music industry. And as I say, we're an efficiency tool. We let people do more with the resources that they already have. We work with record labels, we work with music streaming services, we work with music publishers, anyone who's got a large catalog of music that needs help automating an element of their content. So yeah, we're very busy at the minute. There are more than 40,000 new songs being released every day online, which means more and more music because everyone has access. I mean, look at the great microphone you're using, Wayne, and this home studio setup, and artists, musicians have the same. So they're all able to record and create music. And so really we're the solution that helps manage, this kind of bounty of creativity that just keeps growing every day.
This is brilliant. And you just reminded me to share this live stream as well to my 7 other Facebook groups. I have a few other podcasts that I'm actually making as well. And I think this topic of our discussion, our chat today is also very appropriate to musicians. So I just shared this to my other podcast, which is Bucket List Band Podcast, where many music creators, they actually hang out there. And there are about like 3 other bands that have recently released new EPs and LPs as well, on Bandcamp. I think it'll be great to inform them to tune in to what you're gonna, educate us all about in the next hour or so. I think I've just shared this podcast link to all of them, and let's get them to join in later on, right? I'm gonna maybe just tell you how excited I am about what you're currently doing in this field. And I get to notice when I'm doing research on this episode, right? You're a fellow fan of Queen, is that right?
Absolutely. I'm a huge Queen fan. I've seen them live many times. I'm a big fan of Adam Lambert, who's now fronting Queen. And I think if you ask my husband, he says best band in the world, bar none. So yeah, huge fan.
That's amazing. Before we dive into like your favorite record, favorite song, highest quality song, I think that's something we'll have to talk about later on. Maybe just for an introduction in terms of what your technology is providing. We just heard the great news that you announced. I think you have recently brought on a new customer, right? A new tech partnership where you're providing the tech, to this partner called Epidemic Sounds, if I pronounce that correctly. Tell us what kind of tech assistance or tech technology or features you're helping these Epidemic Sounds to grow and expand their business.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're huge fans of Epidemic Sound. They are one of the number one providers in the world of music that, podcasters such as yourself or YouTubers, if they want to have music over the back of a video, if they want to have it as the intro music, a lot of this music comes from Epidemic Sound. They're one of the global leaders. And essentially, they have, I think, currently 30,000 songs in their database. And the way that they use tagging, they already had some tags. So they already had like BPM, key, maybe like basic genre. And they do all that in-house themselves. And it works really well. So what they wanted from us was we're able to generate anywhere between sort of 10 and 20 additional tags, like about the mood, about the vocal, about the style, things that they might not have had tagged already, which no one really wants to go back and retag 30,000 songs. So we're just adding more language. And therefore, if you were looking for a piece of music for this podcast, but you were searching energetic and they didn't have that before, or, sad or tense, you'd be able to find the content more easily because we would have added those additional metadata tags. So it's just to help the user find what they want, and then obviously the music that's featured in these catalogs to help them be discovered and to help them get more opportunities for their music to be used. So it's kind of there's 2 sides to it, but that's essentially the deal we have with Epidemic, and yeah, we love working with them.
For those CMOs, who make up like 80% of our audience and the C-suite as well, right, who are not so savvy when it comes to music technology, maybe can you educate them, why is having tags so important? And in terms of the upside for composers and producers like me, for example, right? Let's say if I contribute to Epidemic Sound, is that the music stands a better chance of being surfaced for use on video content creation?
So it's fair to point out, you make a very good point. We are a B2B company. And, so as an end user, if you use Spotify or YouTube or Apple, you might not be sort of directly or be able to directly see the impact that Musiio is having, because we work with the companies that are providing that information to their end users. So we're really on the B2B side. But also I spend a lot of my time talking to investors and talking to people who are outside of the music industry. And I do often forget, because I've worked in this industry for about 14 years, that it's not always obvious to people outside of our industry how it works or why we do things a certain way. So a good example I like to use is, if you only have the terminology rock. So we just discussed Queen and we're both fans. So they would probably be tagged as a rock band, which is great. That tag is helpful. But when I say rock, you might be thinking Queen, but I might be thinking, say, Coldplay, which is a very different sound. But, the tag isn't wrong. But, how people understand music and the words that they would use. Maybe someone else would say, actually, Coldplay is indie or indie rock. And maybe Queen is rock, but it's classic rock. And it's, 70s era rock, for their earliest stuff. So the ability to add more words to search terms and the ability to make it more granular just increases discoverability. And it's sort of part of the fact that you can't expect everyone to use the same search terms, the same terminology, the same words. So the more volume in terms of tagging, as I say, if you can add 10 to 20 tags to every single piece of music, you increase that discoverability many fold. So that's kind of the purpose. And as I say, you might not even experience it as a user. If you're on a streaming service and you type happy playlist or rock playlist, you might not necessarily even see the tags or see the work that goes in behind the scenes into the algorithm, but you're certainly a beneficiary of the fact that this data is able to be created. So yeah, we're kind of B2B in that respect.
That's a fantastic, explanation of what this technology actually does. And I want to maybe give a visual, a demo of what this technology can actually help. I think the best way to test the tagging technology of artist tracks, for example, is via your website, right? I understand you have this particular URL that is really useful. It's already live. Let's maybe just dive into it, and I'll just share my screen, and hopefully everyone can see right away. This is basically the page where people will be able to see. I think, is this the right one? Let me see. Custom shop.
Oh yeah. So if you go to just go to the homepage, and there's the tagging demo.
So you mentioned about Queen. Maybe let's use a more recent example, like the album that has been on my playlist for 24/7 over the past 3 days. Is basically this band that released their first album in 22 years. They are from Champaign, Illinois, which is in America, and the band name is called Hum, right? So a lot of people have difficulty describing the music. So I'm going to just maybe copy and paste one of the links to their latest music. The latest album, I think it's called Inlet. So I'm going to just copy and paste the URL into this particular tagging demonstration here, and see whether it accurately describes their sound, all right? So give me 1 second while I just copy this track. It's the track name is called Waves. So I'm not sure whether you are familiar with this band called Hum. Make a guess.
No. I'm not familiar with them, but I'm excited to see what the results are. And as I say, we're very confident with our accuracy, so very happy for anyone to kind of drop a link in here. So yeah, let's see what the AI comes back with. So as you click go, the process that's actually happening here is that we are taking the audio itself, turning it into a series of mathematical transformations, and then producing results based on the
really
audio
fast. It's like within a second, we are getting the results back. It's like real time, yeah?
Yeah.
And this band, they are a metalcore band. So I'm looking at the genre description here. Metal, that's the correct genre, 100%. With elements of metalcore, that's the right description for their music. And with elements of rock, obviously. And in terms of energy level, it's definitely on medium to the high side, more, leaning towards the high side. So I think this is 100% accurate.
Good. And then if you scroll down in that little box as well, you'll see that there is a place where you can put your email in, and it will unveil the rest of the tags. And so that's where, we sort of, this lets us find out who's interested and who's looking stuff up. So now you can see that you've got the emotion spectrum, you've got the instruments, you've got the moods. And then as you scroll even further down, we've created a paragraph about the vocals. So, male vocal, very high quality recording, F major. So this is all of the data that we can gather just from one audio file.
Let's dive deeper into this quality qualifier, right? I think this is one of the coolest thing about your technology is that you can basically, even compare different versions of, let's say, a Queen track, right? I think the most famous one is Bohemian Rhapsody. And probably the earliest version, maybe like a demo or maybe a live performance in a Scrappy Bar. Probably a copy of that sound wave file. If we upload to your algorithm, right, and to your this search engine tool here, immediately will actually gauge and rate in terms of the quality level of that particular sound as well. So my question to you is actually quite simple: which version of Bohemian Rhapsody do you think is the highest quality, and how does your tool actually qualifies this really accurately?
Yeah. So when we talk about quality in this product, we're talking about the recording quality, which is often as a result of, when the track was recorded, equipment has just improved year on year. We're also talking about not just the studio, but the actual, the engineering and the performance. And it might be, that you could upload an identical song, but one version is the WAV and one is the MP3. A WAV is going to be a higher quality file. And then everything right down to, maybe it was Queen playing, but it's kind of live at a massive arena, but somebody's filmed it on their iPhone and uploaded it to YouTube. Well, that's going to be a low quality recording. So really it's kind of designed to give an indication. Sometimes people want to find low quality because they're looking for undiscovered talent, but sometimes, if it's a playlist, you only want the best of the best. But for me, if you're asking my personal opinion, of course, the best version of Bohemian Rhapsody is the original, or possibly even the remastered version that they released. But it's not, our quality indicator is not really a comment on the song itself. I mean, no one could deny, I don't think, that Bohemian Rhapsody is one of the best songs in the world, or certainly is in my opinion. I would always stick with the original, but depending on when it was filmed, how it was uploaded, how the track was stored, can affect the quality of the actual audio file. So that's kind of how we differentiate.
So one of the other questions that I missed out on is what's your favorite Queen record of all time?
Right. Well, my favorite song is probably, there's too many. I like Somebody to Love. That's a favorite. But I also really like Killer Queen. And I went and saw Queen in Vegas with Adam Lambert probably about 3 or 4 years ago. I think it was on the first tour with Adam Lambert. It was at the Hard Rock Hotel in Vegas. And it was one of the best shows I've ever been to. But I needed to run to the bathroom, and there's never a good time to run to the bathroom during a Queen set because every song is brilliant. And I was just really disappointed that I chose the exact moment that Killer Queen was played, and it is one of my favorite songs. So I remember the next time I went and saw them, like, I would just wait if I had to run to the bathroom to make sure I wasn't going to miss the same song again. But yeah, so those are probably the two that come to mind, the two first ones that I think of: Somebody to Love and Killer Queen.
Those are really fantastic songs, and I think that you've also nailed in terms of the best quality tracks ever, right? For me, Bohemian Rhapsody is still number one, and the best record that I still lean into, every time is still A Night at the Opera, where it's like hit after hit.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So that's an amazing album as well. So thank you so much for already describing in a nutshell what your technology can actually do, and also improve the accuracy of qualifying music, being able to search for music and do music discovery and things like that. So we're gonna maybe dive a little bit deeper in terms of that. You mentioned that most of your clients are B2B, right? So maybe in terms of some of your partners, you mentioned about Epidemic Sound as well. Which are the other partners or partnerships that are currently ongoing that's very exciting for all the CMOs who are tuning right now? We think will be very interesting to them. Maybe you can tell us a few more.
Absolutely. So it's really thinking about the ones that we can talk about and the ones that sort of allow us to discuss them. But we do work with Aminotes, which is a great gaming company based in Ho Chi Minh. We also work with Audio Network, and Audio Network are a fantastic sync company with 9 offices globally, but their head office is in the UK. And I'm trying to think off the top of my head, Click and Clear, a really great startup run by another female founder who's monetizing the music used within professional sports. So we have like a little case study on our website about the various different customers that we work with, but it's really varied, and as I said, anyone who has a large volume of music could benefit from some automation and curation from Musiio. But yes, it's a varied bunch, and as I say, I think Epidemic and Audio Network are the largest ones that people may have heard of.
This is fantastic. So, the next question that I'm going to ask you is definitely something more related to your beginnings. Let's maybe back it up a little bit and tell us how you navigated your career, and in the end, becoming an inspiration for a lot of female entrepreneurs and co-founders out there, right? Especially those who are running their own tech startups. And I noticed that many also in your partnership circle, many of them are female tech founders. So tell us, how did you navigate in your career, and in the end ended up doing music technology and, co-founding your own startup in the end. So how was the journey like? And what is it like in terms of doing your startup in Singapore? What did you learn by, actually building this startup right here, in my hometown?
Yes. Well, I obviously I'm from the UK originally, as you can probably tell from my accent. And I didn't really imagine a career in music technology. When I was growing up, it wasn't really a thing. Like, it wasn't really particularly sort of well known. I pre-iPhone, pre companies like Shazam, and there wasn't really a path towards music technology as a career. But I was always a musician, so I've been playing guitar since I was 13, and I was filling my life with playing music and writing music and meeting other musicians, and then that sort of translated into a career when I realized I was spending all of my time doing music. Then that became a sort of a very natural transition for me. And then, I've got very lucky in that one of the first jobs I ever had was at Shazam. So I was an early stage employee at Shazam, and once you've worked for a well-known company, it's then much more desirable to other well-known companies. And so then I moved to Australia, worked for Universal Music and Pandora Internet Radio. And then I moved to Singapore about 4 years ago to work for another music tech startup. And, and then after that job, I decided to start my own business, Musiio, which I'd always thought that I might start my own business, but I never really had an idea of exactly when I would do that. And the timing was just perfect. I met my co-founder through Entrepreneur First, which is a startup incubator based out of London, but with offices here in Singapore. And so that's how I met my co-founder, who's incredibly technical. So, it's a series of smart decisions. But as I said, I think before when we were chatting, I technically am a co-founder now, but before I was a co-founder, when I was at Pandora, when I was at Shazam, when I was at Universal Music, all of the roles were marketing related. Specializing started in social media. I was a videographer, so I used to be everything from book the video, shoot the video, edit the video, publish the video, market the video, a real kind of one-stop shop content marketer. And, I've managed everything from like paid media to individual clients, run my own consultancy. But marketing's the part of the job that I love the most as well. Even this morning, I had a call with another founder who was asking about business in Australia and how it's different to business in Singapore. And the answer is not super different, but, he then went on to say, oh, and your marketing is excellent. How are you guys always, the articles you publish and the posts on LinkedIn? And I said, it's we don't do anything particularly special or different, but because it is my background, it's the thing I enjoy doing the most. So I'm always happy to spend more time on the marketing side of the business, and it's really impactful. It helps at all levels. It helps people know about what you're doing from an education perspective. It helps in sales lead generation because people are familiar with your brand and your products, and it helps with profiles for investor management and success on the business side because you're very visible and you're very transparent in what you're doing. So yeah, I'm always happy to jump more into the marketing side for sure.
You're one of the coolest people, that we always welcome on our show, which is about marketing, right? And of course, you're just like someone that I recently congratulated, Bozoma St. John, who is also like you, her common thread in the whole career is about music. And of course, she moved on to become I think the head of consumer marketing for Apple Music for a while. And now she just joined Netflix, as a CMO. So I think you guys have probably very similar, career path in terms of like music being the common thread throughout your whole entire career journey. And something that excited me as well is what you mentioned earlier about your marketing activities in terms of you're so active on LinkedIn. That's where I found you. And of course, you have such a fantastic music team, right? Who are always putting out real great AI insights on even great marketing platforms like TikTok. There's one that really caught my eye where I think you guys were breaking down in terms of what kind of music really crush it on TikTok. And it's something that it's, interesting to me and to a lot of marketers and CMOs as well, because we are all, making our fingers wet, right, in that arena in terms of like trying out on TikTok and seeing whether it's really as good as what people say it is, whether it's easy to go viral, for example. And recently I got one viral video, which had more than 5,000 views. I basically just posted, it's an episode where William Hung from American Idol fame, right? He came on to my podcast, and then there was a performance of him doing She Bangs by, that great Ricky Martin song. And during the performance, right, he was singing She Bangs. So basically, I clipped that particular portion of that podcast episode, and I uploaded it on TikTok, and I went to sleep. The next morning, I woke up with 5,000 views. So I'm just wondering, what happened there?
So what you're saying, Wayne, is you and I should start singing She Bangs by Ricky Martin. And maybe that could be your new thing. Like everyone who comes on, you'll have any guest, but they have to be willing to sing at least one line from Ricky Martin's song She Bangs. And that could be your new thing. It's just a whole profile of She Bangs clips by people who have varying different singing abilities. Just a thought.
That's a really great suggestion. It's like every guest must come onto the show and actually do a rendition of their favorite song, right? That's probably, one of the prerequisite before you get to be invited to the show next time. I think it's a great suggestion. But, we want to dive into what your great music team at Musiio has really done, that fantastic, AI Insights report. I think it would be great if you can maybe jam with me a little bit about it. In your opinion, right, is it really accurate that 50% of TikTok content that really crush it features hip hop music?
Yeah, I reckon that's accurate. I mean, obviously, statistically, we're looking at the top proportion of music and not the entire database. But, statistically, the average is probably accurate. And especially if you look at, the streaming platforms that release their streaming data. And I think Spotify in America makes something like 75% of all their streams in the US a hip hop genre. So it really is the mainstream music now. So it definitely doesn't surprise me that it would be that high on TikTok as well. But yeah, we got some great feedback on this article. We just did an analysis using our technology of all the content on TikTok, and we got a really amazing response to it. And yeah, we do as well as a company. We have a profile where we publish AI insights. And as I say, as marketers, that's probably something we're experimenting with. We probably do have more success on a traditional platform like LinkedIn, but we're also excited to try new platforms and to kind of try new formats. And I think TikTok's probably one of the biggest and sort of newest and most exciting ones currently.
So are you on TikTok as well? What's your handle on TikTok so that we can follow you back?
It's well, the company handles just at Musiio, so just the company name. I personally do not have a separate account. I don't think I'm doing anything interesting or frequently enough to warrant my own account just yet, but you never know.
So I'm not going to ask you, about your favorite TikTok content creators or questions like that. Maybe going to ask you more in terms of, who are the people that inspired you, are there any musicians other than Queen that actually, got you into music in the first place? You mentioned that you play the guitar, right? So what's the name of your former band?
Yeah, so you're right. I mean, in terms of music, you can't see right now, but I'm wearing a Bon Jovi t-shirt. And so Bon Jovi are absolutely one of my favorite bands. I'm very much influenced by classic rock and by music that's sort of in a similar genre. So when I was starting out, when I very first got the guitar, I was very much into like Boston, but I also really liked Nirvana and The Offspring. I was definitely more into the rock and more into the heavy rock side of things. I'm still a huge fan of Alkaline Trio, Jimmy Eat World, but then I also when I lived in Australia for a long time, and the rock scene wasn't huge whilst I was there, I got really into bluegrass music. And I ended up managing an 8-piece bluegrass band when I lived in Sydney. So I'm, I had a boss at Shazam who used to say, and I love the saying, that there's no such thing as bad music. There's just music you like and music you don't like. And I think that's the way I like to think about it. It's not in competition with each other, but just stuff you vibe with and stuff you don't. So, and then the stuff you don't vibe with, someone else will for sure. And that's kind of what I love about music.
I love all the bands that you just name drop earlier. Basically, all the bands you like, I love them as well. And the next time, we definitely have to re-invite you to my next podcast, Bucket List Band, where we actually talk about bands that you want to see, before you or they kick the bucket. And of course, with the pandemic, right, it's even more important, crucial to see your bands, when they're still around. I think the opportunity definitely will return for us to see all our bucket list bands. My next question for you, I think let's go back to the tech side, right? Because you are doing so many interesting things in AI and machine learning and all that. So in terms of what are some of the current things or projects you are working on that you might be able to review here on the show? Are there any new tools that you are currently working on, like perhaps a new classifier tool to maybe add more granularity to samples tagging, for example?
Yeah, all the time. So, as a product, it's really, AI is really powerful, but it's not something you build once and you forget and you leave. It can be a living, breathing mechanism that takes in feedback and continuously improves. But also, when we first started the company, we'd taught the AI to learn 21 genres, so rock, pop, classical, and now with our AI can understand 84 genres. So we increased from 21 to 84. And we work with companies today that come in and say, oh, we use 500 genres in-house. It's that when you start getting really granular, the sky's the limit. So we're constantly weighing up between, okay, so are we adding more genres? Are we adding more moods? And at the minute we're currently working on file type classification. So when audio is uploaded, is it a song, or is it a sample, or is it a sound effect, or is it a loop? And the ability to more granular tag these kind of categories is kind of the next big thing that we're being asked for. So yeah, we're constantly building, constantly working.
That's fantastic, and really exciting in terms of the developments in this field. It even got a person like me who's more like a podcast host and a content creator, right? But of course, I do a lot of marketing activities as well. I like to put music to those micro content that I put out, on a daily basis. And I always realize that when you have music, that to accompany any content that you put out, your content goes viral more easily. So this is a field, an area that more marketers should pay attention to. So maybe in terms of for example, you mentioned earlier about quality, right? What other, quality determination, rules you think can actually help in terms of what makes a song really great? For example, who actually gets to decide whether a high quality song will perform better than a low quality song, and what does quality actually mean, in your own definition?
Yeah, as I say, and I think you're right. I mean, for us, quality is, we're just purely talking about the recording quality of the audio file, but it is a good thing to clarify, because quite often people think or confuse it with, are we trying to describe the quality of the actual musical composition, which is something that is theoretically possible, and also something that that people, human beings themselves do currently determine, which is, usually you have these teams of people called A&R teams that work at record labels, and they really decide who's going to be the next big thing, what songs they're going to release, which songs they're going to put their marketing effort behind, which is, are they going to get it playlisted on Spotify? Are they going to, purchase a billboard in Times Square? Are they going to run some SEO, SEM campaigns? And that's really, there's a lot of high quality music, but the marketing at the highest level, if you think about the big stars like Beyonce, Rihanna, Justin Bieber, you look at the co-brands they do with the Dolce and Gabbana, or Rihanna launching her own makeup brand, Fenty. It's phenomenal, where these real powerhouses that start in music, or music is their core, but they're really a fully fledged brand themselves, and a lot of the stuff around that is marketing. I mean, at a more core level, you could maybe look at, say, Rihanna has much more going on than just her music. But if you look at her music, the songs are selected and promoted by the record labels. But realistically, and another interesting way might be to just look at the YouTube play counts for each of her individual songs. Some perform better than others, and that's where opinion comes in. I could name, my favorite Rihanna songs. I love Diamonds, I love Rude Boy, the ones that come to mind, but maybe they're not everyone's favorite songs. And so you can, when you start to see like number of views and number of streams, then you can kind of say, well, based on the data, this song seems to be more popular, and therefore maybe it's a higher quality song, as in maybe the song just speaks to more people, it resonates with more people. But yeah, I think quality from that level is a very personal thing as well. There are bands that I follow that have less than 10,000 views on YouTube, and I think it's the best song I've ever heard. It doesn't need to appeal to everyone, and that's why quality can be a difficult thing from an A&R perspective, because it can mean different things to different people. But yeah, it's a fascinating part of the industry. But I must admit, as a company, we're not the sort of the holders of the catalog. We're not the producers or the licensors of the music. So we provide the tools to help these companies do more, but whilst not trying to change their opinion on what quality is, or trying to influence their decisions based on what we think, because a lot of these companies have very sort of definitive methodologies that they're already using. So for us, it's an efficiency and a supportive role. But yeah, it's a fascinating part of the industry for sure.
I think that's really insightful, and I really love your take on this subject. It just reminds me and takes me back to that scene in the the Freddie Mercury movie, right? The Queen, the movie that recently came out that won so many Oscars, right? And there was a scene when the band was actually, arguing with one another about which song in the Night at the Opera should be their first single. I think, I'm in Love in the Car was the first choice, and somebody say Bohemian Rhapsody should be the first choice or first single to be released from the album, right? So even they had a tool like this AI tool that you guys have came up with, it gives them more data points, it gives them more maybe variables and factors to consider, or to maybe strengthen and weigh in on which song should be the better choice, right, as a first hit single. So this actually makes it more interesting, and definitely, if you have more, all these gauging factors, and it helps to make push forward that decision even more easily. I think sometimes it probably leads to an answer even quicker, and it's more efficient. So I think this is a great tool to have. And before we let you go, we're almost hitting the 40-minute mark. I want to ask you about why do you think that voice, is a huge thing now, especially like what I'm doing. Basically, I'm using my voice to make a living, right? And a lot of technology that has been built, like Amazon have Alexa, Apple has Siri, and voice is gonna be the future, and it's already here in a big way. And do you think that, especially for the music industry, when it comes to playlisting and music discovery, voice is gonna be playing an even more important and bigger role in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think the recent stats are something like, there are over 200 million voice devices now in homes, and that's the Alexa and the Google Home. And, 75% of all the, the requests, okay, Google, or hey, Alexa, are about play me some music, play me happy music, or play me a rock playlist. And so therefore it's becoming more and more common that this is the way that the user likes to interact with playlisting, with music, and with their devices. So for a company like us, Musiio, this is a huge opportunity, because it's becoming more and more popular. So voice, I think, is very important, and it opens up a lot of options for people globally as well, for accessibility, and for getting music, as I say, not log on to, not turn your hi-fi on, try and sync it with Bluetooth to your phone, it's just play me music, boom, done. So it's I think it's popular with the consumer. And as I say, people are connecting in different ways. I think that's what I'm sure you found with the pandemic is, the people are like, who, and myself, I probably wouldn't have attended a virtual conference in the kind of volume that I have in the last 4 months, but now it's online or nothing. So I'm like, great, yeah, of course I'll attend, and everyone else will be there. And so it's kind of brought this voice and video more to the fore. So yeah, I think it's a trend, and it's a growing trend.
That's fantastic. So we appreciate you so much for coming onto the show and sharing us all your great insights and all this exciting technology you're bringing, to the world. So before, we say goodbye to you, maybe tell us where we can find you. And, if for anyone out there, a CMO or CEO of their own brand or company organization, you don't want to build like custom tags, or if you're in A&R, they want to do something like karaoke scoring or even silence detection for a product that they're building. Anything that the human ear can actually hear it, right? You guys can actually train an AI to identify it, and you can help them to build into beautiful and functional product. Where to find you and how to actually contact you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to musiio.com, musiio.com, and all of our contact info is there. But if anyone wants to email info@musiio.com, that comes straight through to me as well. So happy to talk to anyone.
Fantastic. So I've added the URL below. Go check it out and go and test the demo tagging. I think it works perfectly so far. I've tested a few hum tracks. I'm going to maybe try a few Rick Astley tracks later on to see whether the Stock Aitken and Waterman will actually come up. Those are the kind of things that the fans really want to look out for. So, Thank you again. I really appreciate you. Thanks for coming on to the show. Any last message for anyone before you go?
No, just thanks for having me, Wayne. It's been an absolute pleasure. What a riot. And do we sing the Ricky Martin song now or later?
Up to you. No, next time on Yellow Show.
I'm kidding.
It's a date, all right? We'll get you back on and then we'll sing the song next time and talk about Ricky Martin.
For the Ricky Martin podcast. Perfect. All right. Thank you, Wayne.
Fantastic. See you. Have a nice afternoon. Cheers.
See you.
Bye.